10 bone-chilling true stories to haunt you alone at night. Prepare for a disturbing sleep. The night was thick with shadows, each corner of the street whispering secrets that nobody dared to hear. As the clock struck midnight, the air shimmered with an otherworldly chill. Was it just the wind, or were there something darker lurking? Perhaps it was the thought of those 10 bone-chilling true stories, echoing in the minds of those brave enough to listen. The first one, they say, is about a figure who appears only when the moon is high, a ghostly shadow who seeks out the lost and the alone, prowling their dreams. Picture it clearly. A small town, silent as a tomb, and a woman named Amelia who lived in a creaky old house on the edge of the woods. Each night, she woke from vivid nightmares, drenched in sweat, her heart thumping violently against her ribs. Her friends warned her, "Don't wander too far at night." But she didn't heed their warnings. Was her curiosity too strong, or was the truth hidden behind the whispers of the town? Things escalated quickly. One evening, she noticed a flickering light in the woods. It drew her in like a moth to flame. The moment she crossed the threshold of her yard, a weight settled in her chest, cold and heavy. As she stepped into the darkness, the trees seemed to twist and reach for her, their branches like skeletal fingers. The light dimmed, only to pulse back with an eerie glow, beckoning her further. "Amelia, stop! Come back!" Her thoughts screamed as the bones in her body stiffened, torn between fear and an insatiable urge to discover what awaited her. What could possibly be lurking in the folds of those shadows? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, there was a crack in the brush behind her. The pulse of the light grew frantic, like a heartbeat racing in the dark. Then, silence. The world dipped into a void, and Amelia turned slowly, her breath caught like a fish on dry land. A pair of eyes glimmered in the shadows, reflecting a sense of hunger, longing. What was it? And what did it want from her? She felt the ground shift beneath her feet, the night wrapping around her like a thick blanket of dread. And with that, a scream echoed in the distance, piercing through the quiet night. Was it too late for Amelia? What fate awaited her in the consuming darkness? Amelia struggled to control her breathing, each inhale sending shards of ice into her lungs. The eyes watched her, unwavering, glowing with a dark intelligence that sent a shiver racing down her spine. A part of her screamed to run, but that urge faded as she took a small, tentative step forward. The flickering light surged brighter, illuminating a section of the forest momentarily, revealing twisted forms of trees that looked like they were contorted in pain. And then, just as quickly, the shadows swallowed the glow, snuffing it out like a candle-less flame. "Amelia!" The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, echoing through the trees, familiar, yet terrifying. It was her mother, long lost to the memories of her childhood. "Mom?" Amelia's voice trembled. She strained to listen, hoping for some sign of her. The very wood seemed to hold its breath, and it wasn't long before she realized the voice was nothing more than the ghostly winds whispering, playing tricks on her mind. Desperate and afraid, she pressed on, fueled by a mix of dread and determination. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if unseen forces weighed down her limbs. The darkness shifted around her, the hunger of the eyes never leaving her. Panic clawed at her throat. What was waiting just beyond the veil of that impenetrable blackness? Then sharp laughter erupted from behind her. Amelia spun around, her heart racing wildly. "Who is there?" she called into the void, her voice echoing back, sounding hollow and weak. The laughter twisted in the night, sending her heart into a frenzied drumroll. "Show yourself," she demanded, trying to sound brave. But the only answer was the howl of the wind, mocking her. As dread seeped into her bones, she felt the presence following her, creeping closer, a tangible weight in the air. Out of nowhere, a figure materialized. A gaunt silhouette cloaked in shadows, its smile wide yet unnatural, like a carved pumpkin grinning in the night. "Welcome, Amelia," it hissed, a voice dripping with malice. "I've been waiting for you." Her heart sank. The stories of the lost children of the woods flashed through her mind. They all spoke of the ritual. It required a sacrifice, a wandering soul who dared to enter the realm uninvited. Their chilling fates twisted into her thoughts, fracturing her sanity. Suddenly, without thinking, she turned back toward the flickering light. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe it concealed a way out. But as she traveled, the laughter grew louder, swallowing her courage whole, a cacophony of despair echoing through her mind. "Join us, Amelia," they taunted. With desperation fueling her flight, she stumbled deeper into the woods, closer to the light. The eyes followed, unrelenting. In her heart of hearts, she knew she was not alone. Would she find escape, or was the light merely a lure into an even darker fate? Her heart pounded as she glimpsed the edge of a clearing, and she pushed through the thick brush. The pulse of the light broke free from the trees, blinding her momentarily. But creeping dread slithered into her mind as she realized, in that very moment, she wasn't the one chasing the light. "Let us play a game," hissed the figure, closer now. The cold marched back into her veins, as shadows swallowed the last shred of hope. What game awaited her in this treacherous dark? As she turned to face her pursuer, the ground lurched beneath her feet once again, and the world spun wildly. What truth was waiting to be uncovered in this heart-stopping darkness? Amelia staggered, her head spinning as the world tilted out of balance. She squeezed her eyes shut, praying the shadows would dissipate like mist in the morning light. But when she opened them again, the figure loomed much closer, its ghastly grin twisted and eager. "Do you want to play?" it crooned, voice dripping with a sinister sweetness that made her stomach churn. The air thickened, full of an urgency that bordered on madness. Every instinct in her body screamed for her to flee, yet here she was, mesmerized by the darkness that beckoned. "No!" she shouted, clenching her fists. "I want to play your games." "Ah, but sweetheart," the figure cooed, "the game has already started. And you, dearest Amelia, you're the final piece. The last move before the curtain falls." Amelia's heart rattled in her chest. She forced herself to step back, her eyes darting to the flickering light that had brought her hope moments before. "What do you want from me?" she stammered, her voice cracking. "Just your willingness to join them," it replied with a cruel chuckle that echoed unnervingly in the clearing. Shadows spiraled around it, pulsating like dark water. "All the lost souls, they need a new friend. And you're just perfect." The laughter erupted again, weaving through the trees like smoke, wrapping tighter around her mind, suffocating her will. Images of children, their faces twisted in agony, flooded her thoughts. They had once played like her, she realized, and had lost far more than just a game. "Stop!" she yelled, the sound tearing from her throat as a surge of defiance coursed through her. She stumbled back, the clearing morphing into a surreal blur, the trees shifting like angry giants. The laughter stopped as quickly as it had begun. In that silence, a glimmer of resolve flickered inside her. Amelia turned abruptly, bolting into the dense thicket, heart thudding hard against her ribs. Branches clawed at her skin, but she barely felt the pain. Escape was everything. "Run, little girl. You think you can outrun the darkness?" The voice purred behind her, reverberating off the trees with such icy malice that blood curled in her veins. The realization crashed over her. This thing was toying with her, and that made it all the more dangerous. The flickering light winked in and out of sight, pulling her like a moth. She pushed onward, desperation propelling her as she ducked and weaved through the underbrush, the laughter echoing behind her like a haunting melody. "Join us! Embrace the shadows!" The words twisted around her, taunting, pulling her towards the light and the dark in an unholy dance. Sweat dripped into her eyes, but she blinked it away, focusing only on the pulse of the faint glow that offered hope. Then the ground trembled beneath her, splitting open as if the very earth was angry at her insolence. She gasped, stumbling as jagged roots erupted around her, trying to ensnare her. It wasn't just a game. It was a trap, and she was the prey. "Amelia," the whisper came again, softer, more sinister. "Why resist? You've already made your choice." She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But no sound escaped her lips as her feet moved uncontrollably toward the light, a force beyond her comprehension pulling her closer. The laughter enveloped her again, intoxicating and dizzying. In that moment, she had to make a choice. Did she want out, or was she already in too deep? With a final surge of will, she spun away from the light. She would not succumb. As she dashed forward, heart racing, the count of eyes watching her multiplied now more than ever. They glowed like hellfire. But what happened next was beyond anything she could have anticipated. The figure's voice dropped to a whisper, and she felt cold fingers brushing against her back. Would Amelia find her way out of this cursed woods, or would she be the next soul lost to the darkness? Amelia's breath came in frantic gasps as she willed her legs to carry her faster, the dark forest twisting into a murky labyrinth around her. The cold fingers lingered at her back, an icy touch that sent a jolt of terror coursing through her veins. She could feel the shadows clawing at her, desperate to reclaim what they felt was their right. "Why fight it?" The voice purred, a breathy whisper that seemed to drift from every direction. "You are drawn to the light, but it's the dark that holds your truth." Her heart raced, pounding like a war drum in her chest. The shadows swirled, whispering secrets she dared not hear, promising freedom yet looming with ancient dread. She stumbled, almost losing her footing as the roots lashed out again, snagging at her ankles like the hands of the lost souls grasping for salvation. "You're not alone here," the voice echoed, mocking her struggles. "Join us, Amelia. You've always been one of us." Tearing her gaze away from the shrieking shadows, Amelia fought to focus. Her thoughts spiraled into chaos. Memories of laughter, sunlight, and warmth clashed with the growing chill around her. She pulled deeper into the woods where the light flickered and dimmed. Hope and fear warred within her. Suddenly, she burst into a small clearing, the space surreal and still. Moonlight flooded in, illuminating the night's stifling grip. But her relief was short-lived. Before her, a circle of ghostly figures stood, their faces amorphous and shrouded in fog. They reached for her with elongated fingers, their mouths moving in silent screams. "Amelia, it's good to see you," one apparitional child whispered, eyes hollow. "We've been waiting." Every instinct screamed at her to run, but curiosity lingered, coiling around her heart. "Waiting for what?" she asked, her voice trembling. "For you to choose, of course," the child answered, tilting its head like a curious bird. "All you have to do is say yes." The darkness around her thickened, pulsating with hungry anticipation. Amelia's pulse quickened again, her thoughts racing. Was this truly a chance for salvation or a final descent into madness? "Say yes, Amelia! Set us free!" A chorus of voices erupted, a haunting melody swelling around her as they reached forward. Each incredible face echoed innocence lost to shadows, every child more wretched than the last. Paul's memory flickered in her mind, the sparkle of wind chimes and laughter echoing from the terrace as he waved her goodbye. Panic threatened to overwhelm her. How could she possibly betray that moment of happiness for this wretched fate? No, she cried, shaking her head violently. I want to abandon that joy for your despair. Instantly, the atmosphere cooled, the glee turning into a chilling silence that wrapped around her like chains. For an unnerving eternity, they stared, their expressions shifting from hope to scorn. The laughter rumbled behind her, deepening into a roar that filled her ears, swallowing her resolve whole. Then you have no choice. You are ours, the boy's voice hissed, hysteria mixing with betrayal in the air. Amelia's horror grew as the spectral entities began to move toward her, shadows swirling in a whirlwind of malevolence. Panic gripped her throat like a vice. As she turned to flee, she sensed the ground behind her gave way, the earth turning into a gaping maw. Run if you want, the whispers urged, now beckoning from all sides, a cacophony of broken dreams. You cannot escape who you are, who we are. With her heart pounding in her ears, Amelia propelled herself forward, launching into the darkness, not knowing if it would be escape or entrapment waiting at the end. The forest itself seemed alive, looming branches and gnarly roots clawing for her, a twisted continuum of light and dark spiraling in the night. As despair clung heavily to her heels, she felt the familiar tug, the flicker of hope still calling to her. But which way would it lead? To salvation or doom? What Amelia did not know was that the journey she was on would uncover more than just her fate. It would unlock hidden truths about the darkness that haunted those lost woods. Would she dare to confront the terror that awaited on the other side? The ground gave way beneath her feet, and with a heart-stopping gasp, Amelia plunged into the darkness. It felt as if time stretched infinitely, every moment an eternity, as she dropped into a void of suffocating shadows. Just when she thought she would never stop falling, she landed with a bone-jarring thud on a damp, uneven surface. The air was thick, cloying with a musty scent that tickled her throat. Gasping for breath, Amelia scrambled to her feet. Around her, the darkness clung like a wet blanket, heavy and oppressive. She blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light that seemed to filter through thick clouds of fog. Amelia. The voice was a haunting echo, fluttering like moss drawn to a flame. Panic coursed through her again. You are not alone. Before she could react, a sudden chill curved around her as phantom figures began to materialize from the murky depths. Their faces twisted in silence, mouths moving in synchronized pleas. The anguish radiating from their eyes pinched at her heart. Help us! They cried, a ghostly chorus that made her trembling hands ball into fists. We've been waiting. Stop! She shouted, her voice breaking. Fear crawled over her skin as their fingers beckoned, sheer desperation lacing every word. I can't help you. I didn't teach you this. But you can choose us, the voice whispered again, coaxing her deeper into despair. Amelia felt their sorrow tugging at her resolve, memories clawing at her mind. She thought of Paul, of laughter and light, a beacon in the overwhelming dark. Was this truly her fate? To become one of them? Just a shade in the endless night? No! I refuse! She screamed, channeling all her fury into the words as a flicker of defiance sparked within her. But as if her outburst had set off a chain reaction, the atmosphere shifted. The air thickened, pressing in around her, charging with an energy that felt both electric and deadly. The figures turned, their features transforming from pleading to sinister. You'll regret this, Amelia. You can't escape your destiny. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted in front of her, dazzling her senses. Shielding her eyes, she instinctively took a step back. What was happening? The brilliance pulsed rhythmically, illuminating the faces of the lost souls, now contorted with anger and betrayal. Choose! They shouted, and in that moment, time stood still. The shadows around her writhed and slithered, desperate for her answer. Driven by instinct, she turned sharply to the flicker of light, feeling its warmth against her skin. The figures screamed in despair, their voices blending into one horrendous roar. Reality twisted, and Amelia stepped forward, diving into the radiance. In a heartbeat, she felt weightless, suspended in the brilliance. But just as quickly, the light dimmed, and she was catapulted back into darkness. This time, not on solid ground but aboard an unseen current, sweeping her away, deeper into unknown terrors. Amelia gasped as the current pulled her along. Every heartbeat resonated with fear, a reminder of her fleeting grasp on hope. She glanced back, expecting to see the wretched faces chase her. Yet there was only blackness, echoing her frantic thoughts. What lay ahead? Was there truly a way out of this wretched maze? Her heart raced as the current spiraled, her surroundings warping and shifting like a dream unraveling. Every split second felt like a final gasp, a savage reminder of the choices closing in on her like grasping hands. Then, a voice pierced through the suffocating darkness, powerful and resonant, pulling her focus back. "Amelia, it's time to learn your truth." Terror washed over her, as she realized the journey had only just begun. Would she brave the uncharted turmoil ahead, or would darkness swallow her whole? The current twisted violently, and Amelia felt herself tumbling through an endless void, her body contorting like a rag doll. Panic clawed at her throat as she fought against the unseen force pulling her deeper. "Amelia!" The same voice resounded, its tone now demanding. "You must not resist." Her fingers clawed at the darkness, grasping for anything that could anchor her. But there was only the swirling blackness and that relentless voice, echoing her name like a haunting melody. The weight of despair pressed against her chest, squeezing the breath from her lungs. A sudden shift, and she was dropped unceremoniously onto cold stone ground. Gasping, she rolled onto her back, her heart racing, echoing like a drum in the stillness. The darkness felt different now, subtly alive, pulsing around her, making her sense of dread deepen. As her eyes adjusted, distorted shapes began to coalesce before her. Elaborate carvings decorated the stone walls, menacing figures caught in the throes of anguish. A dim, sickly green light flickered from somewhere, casting an eerie glow that illuminated the grotesque designs. "Where am I?" she whispered, the words catching in her throat. She pushed herself up, shaking her head to clear the fog. "You are in the abyss," a voice echoed from the shadows, a low growl that reverberated through her bones. "A realm for those who choose to defy." Amelia shivered, the implications of the voice slinking beneath her skin like ice. "What do you want from me?" she asked, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "Answers," the voice responded, visceral and hungry. "And you hold the key to your salvation and your doom." Then, without warning, the shadows lunged forward, enveloping her in a suffocating grip. As they closed in, she felt sharp tendrils weaving around her arms and legs. They were not just shadows, they were memories, her own buried past clawing its way to the surface. "No!" Amelia screamed, her heart racing. Vivid images pressed in on her, moments of vulnerability, pain, and regret she had buried deep. The moment she said goodbye to Paul, when she had chosen to walk away instead of fixing their relationship, straining cries of her little brother's laughter before she lost him in the chaos of tragedy, the faces of those she had failed to save in life. "I won't let you take me," she shouted, channeling all her anger and grief into a single, fierce challenge. The shadows hesitated, a flicker of confusion sparking in the darkness. "You think you're strong enough to resist?" The voice mocked, now split into many, circling her like vultures. "You were never enough, Amelia. Your flaws are what make you human." With that, they surged in, pulling her down into the depths. Despair threatened to do her in, crushing her resolve. But in the very core of her, a flicker of rebellion ignited. She remembered her time with Paul, the good memories. They were a lifeline. "Your past does not define me," she howled, drawing strength from her painful memories. The shadows recoiled, as if struck by her words. Suddenly she felt it, a warmth building within her, radiating outward. Light burst forth from her core, illuminating the shadows, dispelling their grip. With every ounce of strength, she pushed the light outwards, screaming, "I choose my own destiny." The shadows hissed, retreating into an abyss of despair. But just as she thought she would win, the ground beneath her split open, a chasm yawning wide, threatening to swallow her whole. "Amelia!" A voice called, familiar yet distant, carrying with it a warning. "Don't let them take you." But her feet lost their grip, and she began to tumble into the void once more, light fading, darkness rushing back. As she fell, the haunting words followed her. "You have not escaped yet. The truth is waiting." Would she face the truth or succumb to the shadows? The answer danced just out of reach as she plummeted into the unknown, time spiraling away from her grasp, the ground rushing to meet her again. The moment the void swallowed her, Amelia felt a cold sting slice through her as she fell. Unfathomable depths threatened to drag her down, but with sheer will, she kept pushing against the pull. "Amelia!" The voice echoed again, a terrifying lilt weaving through the darkness. "You must face your demons." Tumbling faster and faster, an ethereal glow began to appear below her, illuminating grotesque images pulsing with one haunting truth. The abyss fed on despair. The weight of the past pressed in on her, but within the tumult, she wrestled to find clarity. "Face my demons," she murmured, barely able to hear herself over the rushing wind. "They're just memories," but they weren't just memories. They were living, breathing shadows morphing from guilt and sorrow, clawing at her sanity. Each second that passed added more weight to her thoughts. She heard the echoes of her brother's laughter, now twisted into screams of despair. "You never saved me," it taunted. "No!" she screamed, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "I did what I could." But the abyss only tightened its grip, shadows swirling closer, whispering her failures and fears, amplifying her darkest thoughts. Suddenly, Amelia's vision blurred as she collided with the ground, but this time it felt different. A harsh reality hit her. She was no longer falling. She had landed strong yet disoriented. She blinked against blinding light, vivid and alive, illuminating what lay around her. But this light was far too bright to be comforting. It stung her eyes with a searing pain. An eerie silence enveloped her, wrapping around her like a thick fog. The shadows had transformed, slinking away in the distance, leaving behind an expanse of white. It felt too stark, too empty. Was this freedom, or another nightmare? "Welcome to your reckoning," the voice declared, now softer, almost melodic, but still chilling. Amelia hesitated, instinctively stepping back. The voice surrounded her like a caress, yet beneath the guise lurked a threat, a promise of unearthing the truth. "Show yourself," she demanded, anger sharpening her voice. Yet as the dark began to shimmer with a gentle brightness, the space shifted. An image emerged from the light, flickering like a dying flame. It was a reflection of herself, but twisted and grotesque, wearing her mistakes like a mask. "I am you," it whispered, words wrapping around her heart with chilling familiarity. "And together we will face the truth." "No!" she shouted, recoiling. "You're a lie." "But lies have power, Amelia." The figure smirked, inching closer as its voice turned to a snarl. "The power to destroy. Can you really cut the strings that bind you to the past?" For a moment, doubt crept in like a thief in the night, slipping through the cracks in her resolution. Was she ready to confront what she had buried, even if it meant shattering the illusion she had so carefully crafted? Amelia felt her heart thunder within her, each beat a drum demanding an answer. "Am I ready?" she echoed softly, glancing around at the stark landscape. The figure's wicked smile twisted. It thrived on her fear. "You were never meant to be this strong, Amelia. Release it, embrace your weakness." "No!" She felt a surge of defiance rise within her again. I refuse to submit. With that belief roaring like a fire, Amelia focused on that flickering warmth inside her. As she turned to face the mirrored figure, strength flowed through her. You don't control me. I choose who I am. The figure sneered, and the shadows began to pulse and thrust from the corners of her vision. Would they consume her, or could she finally uncover the truth hidden beneath the pain? Suddenly, everything went dark again, the light extinguishing like a candle in the wind. The truth is always waiting, a whisper echoed, fading with the light. Was this the end or a new beginning? Amelia's heart raced at the thought that would lead her deeper into the darkness, or propel her toward a sliver of hope. The answer lingered in the abyss, just out of reach. What lay ahead would demand everything from her. Would she claim her truth or fall victim to that inescapable shadow? Darkness enveloped Amelia, yet the weight of the void felt different now. Rather than suffocating her, it seemed to amplify the frantic rhythm of her heart. She struggled to regain her bearings, folding her hands in front of her, bracing herself for the next shock. Do you want to change? That taunting voice echoed through the pitch, endlessly repeating the question, slithering into her mind, searching for cracks in her resolve. Each time it whispered, it hollowed her out further, grinding her determination into dust. And then she saw it, the sharp contrast of shadow and light merging and fracturing before her eyes. The darkness undulated, forming grotesque figures that flickered like dying embers. They reached for her, long bony fingers stretching like twisted branches, eager to entangle her in their grasp. No, get away! Amelia shot back, stumbling back on unsteady feet. Each breath was a labor. The cold air cut deep into her lungs. But the shadows only danced closer, whispering knowledge that wrapped around her like chains. You can't escape what you've done, they crooned, their voices slithering around her heart with siphoning caresses. What you've hidden, it will find you. Amelia clenched her fists, their words a dagger flicking into the already gaping wounds of her memory. With each syllable, each haunting chant, the memories burst forth. Images of her brother collided with her consciousness, each one more painful than the last. A fallen bicycle, uncontrollable laughter, a hand grasping hers during a thunderstorm, and then silence. Shut up, she shouted, but the echoes only grew louder, twisting again into that haunting voice. You never saved him, you failed him. With each confession, an invisible weight pressed down on her shoulders. Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. No! She refused to let the guilt seep back in. Not now. Not ever again. But the shadows didn't relent. They took a more tangible shape, morphing into twisted representations of family and friends, faces of those she had wronged. Their eyes, once warm and inviting, stared back at her, filled with haunting disappointment. Their mouths formed silent accusations as the air grew unbearably thick. Face it, Amelia! They screamed in unison, a cacophony of grief blending into a chorus heaving with desperation. In that unbearable moment, she felt herself drowning not in physical water, but in a tidal wave of regret and despair. A sudden realization flooded her. This was not just a confrontation, this was a reckoning. She stood at the intersection of her past and her future. What if she had the power to rewrite all that was broken? To reclaim what was lost? Stop! She breathed, all irrational fear transforming into fierce resolve. You think you can consume me? Know this, I won't allow you to tell my story. An unexpected surge of warmth burst through her, igniting a brightness within that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. It flowed through her veins, like molten gold, illuminating her resolve. She opened her mouth, words spilling out like fire. I will not be defined by my failures. I will take back my life. With every declaration, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in a chaotic disarray as Amelia thrust her hands outward, summoning that inner light. The grotesque figures began to dissolve back into the dark, their sharp cries fading into the abyss. But just as triumph flooded her heart, a thunderous crack split the air, reverberating within every lost corner of her spirit. "Foolish girl, you may think you have power," the voice slithered back, its tone menacing and venomous. "But the truth always desires payment." The ground beneath her quaked, and the once solid surface started to fracture, revealing a yawning chasm deep enough to pull her in. Amelia teetered on the edge, her heart pounding violently against her ribs. There was no going back. "Are you ready to pay?" that chilling voice taunted again, echoing through the chasm. Amelia took a step forward, staring into the abyss. Could she face the repercussions of her truth? Or would she plunge into a deeper darkness? As the world around her trembled, she knew this was only the beginning. What would she discover in that fathomless depth? As the chasm widened, the dark void seemed to pulse with an almost sentient energy, inviting her to leap headfirst into the unknown. Amelia felt the weight of vulnerability pressing upon her, squeezing her lungs, forcing the air from her chest. The shadows danced ominously at the edge of the pit, coaxing her ever closer with cruel whispers that dripped like poison. "You've come so far, but how far are you willing to go?" it hissed, the voice curling around her mind like an invasive vine, seeking to ensnare her in its grip. "No!" Amelia shouted defiantly, clenching her fists tighter. The pain in her heart burned still, but the anger ignited a spark. "I will not be your prisoner." With a swift movement, she stepped back from the precipice, her heart racing as she regained her balance. She was confronted by the twisted faces staring back at her, still looming out of the darkness, familiar yet grotesque, a mockery of all she loved. The air thickened around her, squeezing at her throat, but she pressed forward, fueled by her unwillingness to be lost again. "Every obstacle can be overcome," she whispered to herself, closing her eyes briefly. "I will face this." In that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited within her. The demons lurking by the chasm were not simply manifestations of her guilt. They were echoes of the past, a dark reflection of every moment she had feared or attempted to forget. "Am I ready to pay?" she mused, her voice barely above a whisper now. The weight of that choice loomed before her like a tower of rubble on the brink of collapse. What price would she have to pay to reclaim herself? "Very well," the voice crooned, seemingly amused. "What will it be? Your memories? Your bonds? The secrets you hold dear?" Each question felt like a dagger piercing her heart. Was her past worth the pain it had wrought? Could she sacrifice those personal treasures in order to escape this torment? Her breath caught as she considered the magnitude of her dilemmas. But a pulse of the inner light shimmered through her resolve, urging her to keep fighting. She would not relinquish her past. It was part of her core. But she could reshape it, redefine her connection with it. "No!" she shouted, her voice echoing into the abyss. "I will not trade memories for freedom. I own my regrets. I own my choices. You have no power over me." A tremor rumbled through the ground in response, the chasm quaking as if affronted by her proclamation. The shadows flickered, disoriented and uncertain, their grip on her weakening. The edges of the pit started to blaze, with the same vibrant light that had filled her moments before. As the glow intensified, Amelia felt warmth radiate from her heart, wrapping around her like an embrace. For the first time, the darkness felt less daunting. With one strong step, she walked toward the edge. Her heart beat like a drum, echoing courage like the last resounding note of hope. She understood now she had strength within her, even in the face of despair. It didn't matter how deep the chasm was. She had already embraced the truth of who she was. "Let us see what is down there," she murmured to herself, the glow around her illuminating not only her path, but also the hidden depths of her spirit. As she leaned into the chasm, the ground quaked violently beneath her, a deafening roar erupting like a storm. The light flickered and dimmed, threatening to fade, as the shadows clawed at her resolve. In that moment of uncertainty, another thought pierced through the chaos. What awaited her in that darkness? Would she discover the strength to confront her past, or would the shadows reclaim her, swallowing her whole? With fear and excitement intermingling, Amelia held her breath and continued her descent, determined to confront whatever awaited, knowing all too well the true price of redemption was yet to be revealed. As Amelia hovered on the edge of the chasm, drawing in the flickering light like a lifebuoy in a stormy sea, she surrendered the panic rippling through her. She felt the warmth wrap around her heart, defeating the icy fingers of despair that had held her captive for so long. With one deep breath, she steeled herself and plunged into the void, the brilliance surrounding her fading into a swathe of shadows. Darkness enveloped her, but now she understood the shadows didn't hold her, she held them. The chasm echoed with her heartbeat, thunderous and alive, as she descended. Memories swirled around her like a tempest, each one a sharp reminder of life's fragility. Images of her brother's laughter intertwined with the warmth of sunny days spent with friends. She had made choices steeped in fear, but they had also crafted joy. Embracing this realization strengthened her, fueling her descent with a renewed purpose. She would not be devoured by regret. She would face it. As she landed in a place that shimmered with muted lights and sharp edges, an expanse of pale figures surrounded her. But this time, they were not sinister. They were familiar, like reflections of everyone she had ever loved: Paul, her little brother, her parents, all blurred together in a timeless fusion of warmth and sorrow. They stretched out their hands, inviting her closer. "Amelia," a soft voice whispered through the stillness, carrying the echoes of love and loss. "It's time." She felt the pull of their love, enveloping her like a protective blanket. "Time for what?" she breathed, unable to suppress the trepidation coiling within her. "To forgive," the voice replied, and the figures shimmered, their faces transforming into compassionate, understanding expressions. "To forgive yourself." Tremors coursed through her as she looked around. The memories of guilt crashed against her like waves, and she could see each moment she held on to as a bitter burden. I can't," she stammered. "They deserve better than I gave them." "Yet they loved you," the voices echoed, merging into one harmonious pulse. "You are not your failures. You have the power to rewrite your story." As the space began to spiral, she felt the light within her flicker in a way that felt both frightening and exhilarating. Was this the moment she had been searching for? Gritting her teeth, she let out a deep breath, a combination of sorrow and relief. "I forgive myself," she finally whispered, the words spilling out, clumsy at first, then stronger. "For not being perfect. For not saving him. For letting fear overtake me." With every confession, the vibrant figures grew brighter, smiling as if lifting a weight off their shoulders and hers. Shadows elongated and twisted, writhing in apparent agony, unable to withstand the warmth of her blossoming courage. "I won't let you control me anymore," she shouted, her voice resonating across the vastness. The shadows hissed and shrank back, their whispers turning from mocking to terrified as the light continued to expand. As the last remnants of darkness slipped away, Amelia stood alone amidst the echoing joy of reconnection. She had faced not only her fears, but also the truth of her love. The clarity struck her like lightning. It was not about the past, but about the choices she made every single day moving forward. She felt the ground solidifying beneath her, a firm foundation built on acceptance, and she opened her eyes wide. This was her rebirth, the moment to take control of her life once again. "I will cherish all of you," she said, her voice steady. "I will honor my past, but it won't imprison me any longer." The light radiated, filling the chasm with brilliance as the figures melted away, but their essence remained within her heart, vibrant and powerful. Amelia turned away from the abyss, ready to embrace the world once more. She walked toward the distant glow, beckoning her, a pathway formed of shimmering memories leading her back to reality. As she stepped forward, she felt the warmth of the evening sun draping her in its golden light. She breathed deeply, letting the world around her dissolve into clarity. The creaky floorboard of her old house, the whisper of the trees in her family's backyard, the fresh scent of spring air, everything came alive, welcoming her back. With resolve, she took a moment to reflect. She had forgotten the beauty of living, but now the shadows had taught her to find strength in her vulnerability. And it was more than enough. Amelia smiled, her heart soaring, ready to navigate life with hope, love, and the courage to be imperfect. The trees swayed gently in the wind, whispering their secrets, and she walked back toward the warmth of her home, knowing she had found her truth and a way forward. Amelia had escaped the darkness, and as she looked up at the fading sunset, she understood. Her story was not yet finished. It had only just begun. Now about you. Are you ready to face your own truths? Visit the link in the description to share your story, inspire others, and join our community of support. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories. What did this story mean to you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let us uncover our truths.